There are a lot of misconceptions about the carnivore diet, and they're holding you back because the reality is they're just not true. I've been carnivore for almost a year, and my health problems have vanished. Life is so much better now. Many people hear crazy and even unsustainable things about this way of eating, and it keeps them from ever even trying. These misconceptions can be compelling and unnerving, but they're also inaccurate. Today, let's talk about reality. Myth number one, you need to be eating organ meats in order to be carnivore. So, it's not true. You don't have to consume organ meats or organ meat supplements in order to be carnivore. However, I do know that many people who start carnivore have some nutritional deficiencies. Liver and heart, particularly beef liver, beef heart, can really help them overcome those deficiencies, and they crave it for the first few days or weeks of the carnivore diet, and then they back off. When I first started carnivore, I did have a pill bottle of, the desiccated beef liver and beef heart, and it was good, but honestly, when the bottle ran out, I just didn't buy any more, and I felt fine. So I think if you are especially prioritizing ruminant meat, so that's your beef, your lamb, your bison, if you have a lot of ruminant meat in your diet, you might not need those organs or organ supplements. That being said, if you like the taste of them, if they benefit you in any way and it's not an inconvenience, please eat them. I am such a fan of nose to tail eating. I try to do it in any way possible. We still do consume organ meats. We raise lamb on our farm. When we get them processed, we get the liver and the hearts back. We chop it up and either put it into our own ground meat, or sometimes we'll give it to the chickens as a treat, and we get that nutrition back in the form of our eggs. So I like organ meats getting eaten. However, you can be a great carnivore without having ever touched beef liver. Myth number two is that calories don't matter on the carnivore diet. Sorry to tell you this, but calories still matter on the carnivore diet. Now, I wouldn't stress about this if you're just getting started. I would much rather anyone starting carnivore get adapted to eating animal-based for at least 30 days before you start worrying about calories. Learning to feel satiated and learning what that feels like and knowing when enough is enough, that's a much more beneficial metric than counting calories. However, I do get a lot of comments on this channel of people who are eating quite a bit of meat and can't cut the last 10 or 15 pounds on their diet. And I think the reality is because maybe you don't realize that calories still absolutely matter on the carnivore diet. And meat and animal products are very dense in calories because of the high fat content. And again, I'm not afraid of fat. Fat's a friend of the carnivore diet. However, it will put more calories on you, and calories still matter. I find that my breakdown is a little bit fat heavy, and then protein is obviously big. Now, carbs, I do have some incidental carbs. I like raw milk. I usually drink about 1 or 2 glasses a day of raw milk, so I do get some carbs there. I'm not super worried about that. Others have bad experience with it. For me, it's not a concern. The most important thing, eat what agrees with your body. Myth number 3, the carnivore diet does not give you enough fiber and you're gonna get backed up. Not true. Very not true. If you've watched some of my videos before, you might know my hilarious, embarrassing stories about why I got started with carnivore. And basically, I was so backed up that I didn't have a bowel movement for 10 whole days. And I was doing fiber, I was doing enemas, I was cutting out dairy, berries, fiber supplements, everything you could think of except for carnivore, really. And 2 or 3 days in on carnivore, I've been clean as a whistle since. You don't really need fiber to stay regular. Now, other people go through adaptation periods on the other side, where they have much more consistent bowel movements, and their issue when they go carnivore is they're pooping all the time. And I didn't have that issue. I've had isolated incidents with that in my first month, but honestly, sustainably, I can't think of a gram of fiber I've had in the past 8 months, and I'm doing fine. I have literally my entire life never been this regular. And that's my TMI update for you today. Myth number 4, the carnivore diet is unsustainable because you're not getting the essential nutrients. And that's not true. A big one that people call out is scurvy, and they're worried, oh my gosh, I'm not gonna get vitamin C and I'm gonna get scurvy. Fun fact, there actually is vitamin C in beef. You will not find it after that beef has been dried. So for example, like beef jerky, you're not going to find vitamin C in there. But if you have a steak and you haven't burnt it to death, you're going to get vitamin C from that. Is there more vitamin C in steak or in orange? An orange has way more vitamin C than a steak. But interestingly enough, the same receptor sites in your gut that pull out vitamin C and actually use it for the body are the same receptor sites that also have to deal with sugar. Anytime you consume vitamin C in a plant source, I think of like oranges, you're also going to be getting sugar with that. So when that sugar and vitamin C hits your gut, that receptor site, that again, its job is to make use of sugar and vitamin C, it's primary preference is going to be to deal with the fact that you put a lot of sugar in your gut, and it's going to spend all of its time working on that. Now, on the flip side, when you have vitamin C in the form of ground beef, which is much less than an orange, however, you're not consuming hardly any sugar. The only sugar I consume is the lactose in the milk, and I never have like a milk and steak. So you're not getting sugar with your steak. When you don't put sugar down with your red meat, those receptor sites are going to be happy to pull out what little vitamin C you get. And like I said, I don't supplement vitamin C. Been doing this for many months, feeling fine. Okay, I'm ready for some heat on myth number 5 because some people might disagree with me. But the truth is, there's a myth that carnivore is just an extreme version of keto. And that is not true. So let me say a disclaimer before anyone wants to pick a fight with me. I'm not picking on keto. I had a great experience on keto, was doing keto off and on for years before carnivore. I think keto is a great introduction to carnivore, but they are two separate diets with two separate lifestyles and two separate goals. So keto's goal is to get into ketosis by reducing carbs and increasing your fat intake, to have your body switch from being a sugar burner and go into burning ketones by turning your stored fat into ketones and burning that for fuel, which is really great for weight loss. Carnivore, on the other hand, is not solely about weight loss or converting your stored fat into energy. It does happen. However, carnivore is more about loading your body with abundant, bioavailable nutrition while excluding things that just are not good for you. So that's going to be plants, right? Plants, nuts, and seeds. Now, when I was on keto, I jacked up my gut big time because I was eating raw spinach, almonds, and apples all the time. Apples were like my dessert treat on keto. I'd have like half an apple once a day. And of course I would have, eggs and beef and high fat, but the plants really jacked up my gut. So the keto diet definitely has a great allowance for leafy vegetables with low carbs, whereas the carnivore diet, that's kind of public enemy number 1, maybe behind sugar and grains. But the reality is that most fruits and vegetables, and especially grains, and especially if you live in the United States, are sprayed with pesticides and herbicides. Wheat, especially with the amount of glyphosate that is sprayed on that, which is a known, well-documented cancer-causing agent, and it is just so abundant in our food system, can really jack up your gut and your life. Carnivore is all about excluding that stuff. Keto makes allowances for it. Even if you're buying organic or you're like me and you grow most of your own food, there's still pesticides in that food. So, I notice in my garden that there are many vegetables that bugs will eat, and there are some that bugs will not eat. And it's not because the bugs are picky or smart or they have their favorites. It's because there are actually pesticides within the leaves that those plants use to protect themselves from those insects. You and I don't feel them immediately because we are so much larger than a bug, but if you're this big and you're chomping on something that has very little pesticides in it, you're going to notice it a lot sooner than we will. We, on the other hand, will make a big salad, consume way too much raw vegetables, and now we have a pesticide problem. Speaking of ketosis, there's a myth that if you are carnivore, you are in ketosis all the time. You can be, but you probably won't be. I found that in my first 2 weeks of carnivore, I was in ketosis. I know that because I was testing my blood with a Keto Mojo, and that was really neat. And then I forgot about it. I just never tested if I was in ketosis. About a month or 2 into carnivore, I tested again and realized I'm not in ketosis. And again and again and again, I was no longer in ketosis. There's something called gluconeogenesis, which is basically where your excess protein gets turned into carbs, and that's okay. Can you do keto and carnivore at the same time? Absolutely. It does take a little bit of effort on macro research and planning out your day and not overfeeding on protein, but it can totally be done. However, I just want to dispel, you don't have to do keto to do carnivore. You're not always in ketosis if you're on carnivore, and that's okay. Okay, myth number 7, carnivore is only for crazy people. Correction, carnivore is for desperate people. And what I mean by that is people like you and I who have maybe tried carnivore, that's not our first stop on our health journey. We've done a lot of things, we've done a lot of homework, and truthfully, we've been bamboozled by a conventional narrative. So it's not that we're lazy or crazy, it's that we've tried maybe a dozen different things and carnivore seems to work and align with us. Carnivore really is just about taking ownership of your own health. It's stepping off a ledge and realizing that, hey, maybe the conventional narrative doesn't have what it promises and maybe there's something here. You test on yourself, you take ownership for your own health, and you live your own life. The important thing is to find out what works for you. Something that irks me a lot, and this is carnivores attacking other carnivores, is when they virtue signal and say that, oh, you're doing this, that doesn't work, or you have some spices, that doesn't work, or I'm doing lion diet, and that's the only way to be doing it. And I just don't like that. I don't like the idea of carnivores attacking other carnivores because they're not being as pure as one another. Do what works for you, and don't worry about what other carnivores say or don't say to do. Myth number 8, and that is that carnivore is only for bodybuilders or weightlifting. That's not true. Can you do carnivore and get into the best shape of your life? Absolutely. Can you do carnivore and just lose extra fat? Absolutely. Can you do carnivore and reduce inflammation? Yes. There are many paths that lead to carnivore, and then there are many paths within carnivore. There's not one way of doing it. There's not one goal within carnivore. You can get in great shape, or you can just have enough shape to go for a walk, to chase your kids around the yard. You don't have to be a bodybuilder or a weightlifter to do carnivore. There's plenty of room for everyone here. My favorite myth to dispel is that carnivore is boring. Many people think that carnivore lacks variety because they just see steaks and ground beef all over the internet. And the reality is that there's a lot of room for a lot of different foods on the carnivore diet. In my diet, I regularly consume ground beef, lamb, many different cuts of beefsteak, scrambled eggs, sunny side up eggs, ground pork, pork chops, bacon, chicken breast, chicken thighs, chicken wings, lard, tallow, grass-fed butter, and raw milk. So to anybody out there saying that the carnivore diet is boring, I guarantee you haven't tried it yet. Okay, I've just spent a few minutes talking about what isn't true about the carnivore diet, but what is true? There are many positive side effects to eating carnivore. So check out this video where I discuss the amazing side benefits that I've experienced. That's all I got today. Good luck on your health journey. I'm gonna get back in my house and eat some steak and eggs for lunch. Go meat.